Now, let's turn our attention to some reaction to a few different stories. The ag visa is one of them. I'm joined now by the Agriculture Minister and Senior Nationals, David Littleproud. Joins me from his electorate in Queensland. David Littleproud, thanks so much for your time. Let's start with the ag visa, because Christina Keneally and Julie Collins have written their critique of the visa in The Australian, saying Labor remains concerned that this visa will undermine key elements of the Pacific Step-Up, including the Seasonal Workers Program and Pacific Labour Scheme. Are you worried that that's going to be an adverse response to what you're trying to create with the ag visa?
No, because this complements and supplements the Pacific scheme, and in fact the ag visa goes to skilled and semi-skilled workers, much of the Pacific Island countries don't have. So we are by February going to have a shortfall just in horticulture of 30,000 workers in February next year. So the reality is, just in hort we're behind. Then you put over the meat sector and every other part of agriculture. There is more work to go around than you can poke a stick at, and Australians aren't interested in taking this work up. We've put over $60 million worth of incentives out there. Less than 6,000 have taken that up, and of the 6,000 taken up, those incentives, around 70% are foreign workers that are already here anyway. So what Labor Party doesn't understand is that this work needs to get done. Farmers don't have the luxury to sit around and wait for someone to turn up. When it's ripe, it needs to get from their paddock to your plate. And we need to have a suite of measures that supports that. And, you know, unfortunately, these two are making their policy predicated off what the unions are telling them. And unfortunately, I just say to them, they might want to wander out and talk to a farmer instead of the closest they're getting is from 30,000 feet from flying over them.
Well, their argument goes to the fact as well that workers were being dudded essentially in some cases, that the Fair Work Commission ruled in favour of the Australian Workers Union and amended the horticulture award to guarantee every fruit picker on every farm the minimum pay of $25.41 an hour. Some had been earning as little as $3 an hour. Will you accept that judgment, or will you seek to override it, the government?
No, we've already made that clear that we respect the decision of the independent umpire. The Fair Work Commission is a statutory authority separate from the government. It makes independent decisions. We respect that. And I think if you look at the decision, what it says is that the piecework arrangements can still continue, which is a good thing. What they're saying is that there is a minimum wage that underpins that, and that's what farming groups will now work through. So this demonisation of Australian farmers by the AWU and now the Labor Party is disgraceful. There is a small cohort that's done the wrong thing, but there's also a small cohort of the Labor movement and the union movement that's done the wrong thing, that quite publicly had charges laid against them, but we don't demonise them. So if you want to pass the same test against Australian farmers as against the AWU, then you'd have to call them hypocrites. We need to clean up that small cohort that's doing the wrong thing, and we will. We're putting in place legislation, working with the states, having mirroring legislation between state and federal governments to increase regulation on labour hire companies. Alex Hawke, before Christmas, will put in legislation that will increase penalties for those that exploit foreign workers. So we are doing what we need to clean this up. But just to simply say, well, let's get rid of an ag visa because of a few shonky dealers is a lack of understanding of the problems that faced in the agricultural sector in terms of supply of labour. And if we don't do that, and if we don't fix this, then you're going to pay more at the checkout.